My dad had believed stepsister's lies that destroyed my name and kicked me out without a word. Now, he begged, but I gave him exactly what he earned. This all started when I was 17, and I had no idea that one family vacation would basically ruin my life. It sounds dramatic, but trust me, this isn't one of those situations where it's just a little sibling rivalry. This was the moment when my relationship with my family started to fall apart, thanks to my stepsister, Leah. She was 14 at the time, and we had never really been close. I wouldn't say we hated each other before, but we just didn't vibe, you know? So, we're on this family trip to a beach resort. It's supposed to be one of those nice, relaxing vacations, except for the fact that I'm forced to share a room with Leah. I didn't have a choice, and I wasn't thrilled about it. I was wrong, big time. Leah had this attitude like she was better than everyone else. Maybe it's because she was the baby of the family, or maybe she was just like that. But either way, she was always the golden child in my dad and stepmom's eyes. Meanwhile, I was just there. Not quite the black sheep, more like the forgotten sheep. They didn't hate me, but they didn't really care either. You know the type. Anyway, after a couple of days of pretending to be civil, Leah and I had a huge argument. I don't even remember how it started. It was probably something stupid like me borrowing her hairbrush without asking, or her hogging the bathroom. But it escalated fast. Before I knew it, we were screaming at each other, and she threw a pillow at me like a 10-year-old having a tantrum. After that, she completely iced me out for the rest of the trip. Leah didn't say a word to me, no good morning, no pass the sunscreen, nothing. She literally acted like I didn't exist, and honestly, I was fine with that. I thought, cool, I don't have to deal with her. But the silence didn't stop when we got home. She kept ignoring me, like full-on pretending I wasn't there, and at first it was just kind of weird. I figured she'd get over it after a while. I mean, she's 14, right? She can't stay mad forever. Wrong again. Things started getting really strange when she began spreading rumors about me. I didn't know it at the time, but apparently, Leah had been telling our stepmom and my dad that I was, get this, a drug addict and a prostitute. Yeah, you read that right. She said I was selling my body for money and that I was hooked on drugs. And you know what the worst part is? They believed her. I didn't find out until a few months later. But by then, the damage was already done. Leah had convinced them that I was this total screw-up, and my dad and stepmom were starting to treat me differently. They wouldn't outright say anything, but I could tell by the way they acted. They were distant, cold, judgy. My dad would barely look at me, and my stepmom started watching me like a hawk every time I left the house. At first, I had no idea why they were acting like that. I wasn't doing anything wrong. Yeah, I'd smoked weed a couple of times at parties, but it wasn't like I was some drug addict. And I'd gone on a couple of dates, sure, but I wasn't doing anything remotely close to what Leah was accusing me of. But no matter how hard I tried to act normal, my parents were convinced I was this terrible, rebellious teenager. It all came to a head one night when my dad confronted me. I was just sitting in my room, minding my business, when he barged in and started yelling at me about how I was ruining the family and how I needed to get my life together. I had no idea what he was talking about, so I asked him, and that's when he dropped the bomb. He told me that Leah had confessed to seeing me sneaking out at night, meeting random guys and doing drugs. My first reaction was to laugh because it sounded so ridiculous, like, was he serious? But he wasn't laughing. He was dead serious. And the angrier he got, the more I realized this wasn't just some misunderstanding. He actually believed her. I tried to defend myself. I tried to tell him it wasn't true, that Leah was lying, but he didn't want to hear it. He told me I was disrespecting my family and that I needed to shape up or I'd end up getting kicked out. That's when I realized it didn't matter what I said. He was never going to believe me. Leah had poisoned their minds against me, and there was nothing I could do to fix it. Things only got worse from there. My stepmom started treating me like I was some criminal. She'd go through my stuff when I wasn't home, looking for drugs or evidence of whatever Leah had told her. I felt like I was being watched 24/7, and it made me paranoid. Every time I came home, I wondered if this was the day they'd finally kick me out. Leah, meanwhile, acted like nothing was wrong. She'd still ignore me, but every once in a while I'd catch her smirking at me, like she was proud of what she'd done. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea why she was doing this to me, but I knew one thing: I couldn't trust her. It didn't take long before I started to spiral. I mean, how could I not? My whole family thought I was some degenerate, and I had no one on my side. I started to isolate myself, staying in my room as much as possible, trying to avoid my dad and stepmom. I didn't have a lot of friends at the time, so I didn't really have anyone to talk to about what was happening. I felt completely alone. Looking back, I should have left sooner. I should have just packed my bags and gotten the hell out of there, but I was scared. I didn't have anywhere to go, and I was still in school, trying to finish my last year, so I stayed, hoping that somehow things would get better. But they didn't. They only got worse. After Leah started that whole rumor about me being a prostitute and a drug addict, everything spiraled. It wasn't enough that my parents basically turned their backs on me, they fully believed her without even questioning it. My dad, who I thought would at least ask me what was going on, didn't even try. He just went straight to lecturing me every chance he got, talking about how I was going to ruin my life and how I was a disappointment. I tried everything. I tried sitting them down, explaining that Leah was lying, that none of this was true, but no matter what I said, they wouldn't hear it. My stepmom even said, "Why would Leah lie? What does she have to gain from this?" And at that point, I had no answer. I didn't know why Leah was doing this. I just knew that she was ruining my life for reasons I couldn't figure out. The weirdest part? Leah wouldn't stop smirking at me every time she walked past. It was like she enjoyed watching me suffer. She knew she had my parents wrapped around her finger, and she used it. I don't know how or when it started, but she knew exactly how to manipulate them. And the more I tried to stand up for myself, the more they doubled down on their belief that I was the problem. It got to a point where I just stopped talking. Like, what was the point? They weren't going to believe me, so why even bother trying to explain myself? I'd come home from school, go straight to my room, and try to stay out of their way. I started feeling like a stranger in my own house. And honestly, I didn't even know if I wanted to stay there anymore. But at 17, where was I supposed to go? I didn't have friends I could crash with, and I didn't have any money saved up because my dad would take a chunk of my part-time job paycheck for living expenses. Then came the breaking point. One night, I got home later than usual, because I had stayed late at school to finish a project. As soon as I walked in the door, my dad was there, waiting for me, looking like he was ready to explode. Without even letting me get a word out, he started yelling, "Where were you? What the hell do you think you're doing sneaking around like that?" I was confused, like completely blindsided. I told him I was working on a school project, but he didn't believe me. He went on this whole rant about how he knew I was lying, and that Leah had told him she saw me sneaking out with some guy earlier. That's when I lost it. I mean, how many more lies was she going to tell? How much more damage could she do before they'd finally see what was really going on? Then I yelled back, told him that Leah was full of it, that she was making everything up just to mess with me. But my dad wasn't having it. He got right up in my face, and for the first time, I really thought he was going to hit me. His fists were clenched, and he was shaking with anger, like he was on the edge of losing control. I don't even remember what I said next, but whatever it was, it pushed him over the edge. He raised his hand like he was about to hit me, but instead, he slammed it down on the kitchen counter so hard I thought he broke something. "Get out of my house," he said, his voice so low and calm that it was even scarier than when he was yelling. "I can't even look at you anymore. You're a disgrace." I stood there for a second, trying to process what just happened. Was he really kicking me out, just like that, over a bunch of lies? I ran upstairs, grabbed a few things, and left without even saying anything to Leah. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't give her the satisfaction. All I could think about was how this kid, this 14-year-old kid, had completely turned my life upside down, and there was nothing I could do about it. I ended up crashing at a friend's place for a few days. They didn't know the full story, but they knew enough to let me stay for a bit while I figured things out. My dad didn't call. My stepmom didn't call. And Leah? She definitely didn't call. It was like they just erased me from their lives overnight. I eventually found a crappy apartment with what little money I had, and for a while, I didn't even think about my family. I was just trying to survive. It wasn't easy, but at least I was out of that house. I didn't have to deal with their accusations anymore. I didn't have to deal with Leah smirking at me like she won some kind of twisted game. For a few months, things were quiet. I didn't hear from my parents at all. Honestly, part of me hoped that after some time had passed, they'd realize they were wrong, that Leah was lying, and they'd reach out to apologize, but nope, nothing. Then, out of nowhere, I got a message from Leah's ex-boyfriend. Now, I hadn't thought about Leah in a long time. I mean, why would I? She wasn't a part of my life anymore, and I was honestly happier that way. So when this guy messaged me, I wasn't really sure what to expect. But what he told me changed everything. Apparently, Leah had gotten drunk one night, really drunk, and in the middle of some argument with her boyfriend, she'd just spilled everything. She admitted that she had lied about me all those years ago, not just little lies either. She confessed that she made up the whole story about me being a prostitute and a drug addict because she was jealous of me. And get this, she was jealous because she thought I was getting too much attention from boys. I sat there, staring at my phone, trying to process what I just read. My mind was racing. All that time, all those years of my life being destroyed, my family treating me like I was trash, all because Leah was jealous of some teenage crap. I didn't even know how to feel. Part of me wanted to laugh at how ridiculous it was, but mostly, I was just angry, like really angry. I thought back to all the times I tried to defend myself, all the times I begged my dad and stepmom to believe me, all the nights I cried in my room, feeling like my entire family had turned against me for something I didn't even do. And for what? Because Leah couldn't handle me getting attention? It was unreal. So now I had this confession, right? I had proof that Leah had been lying the whole time. Her ex-boyfriend even said he'd back me up if I wanted to confront her or tell my parents, but honestly, I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to run straight to my dad's house and throw it in their faces like, "See? I told you I wasn't lying." But another part of me was just tired. Tired of the whole situation. Tired of trying to get them to see the truth when they clearly didn't care enough to figure it out on their own. I thought about it for a few days, trying to decide what to do. In the end, I didn't confront Leah. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't do anything. What would it change? Sure, I could show them the proof, and maybe they'd apologize, but would that really make up for everything they'd put me through? Would it bring back the years I lost? The answer was no. So I let it go. I blocked Leah's ex-boyfriend's number, deleted the message, and moved on. Or at least I tried to. The truth is, even though I didn't do anything with the confession, it still weighed on me. It felt like this giant piece of unfinished business that I couldn't just forget about. Every time I thought I was done with it, something would remind me of my family, and the anger would come rushing back. It's hard to explain, but it was like there was this part of me that still wanted justice, even though I knew I'd never get it. Around that time, I'd started building a new life. I had a decent job, an apartment that wasn't great but was mine, and I had met someone. His name was Kyle, and he was everything I needed. He was kind, supportive, and most importantly, he didn't come with any of the baggage that my family did. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had something good in my life. Kyle knew about my family situation. I didn't tell him everything, but he knew enough to understand why I wasn't close to them. He didn't push me to talk about it, which I appreciated. He got that I was trying to move on, and he was just happy to be a part of that. We'd been dating for about a year when the whole Leah confession thing happened, and Kyle was my rock through all of it. But even with his support, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still unresolved. My parents hadn't reached out to me since I left. Not once. No calls, no texts, nothing. And as much as I wanted to pretend I didn't care, I did. I hated that I cared, but I couldn't help it. They were my family, and even though they'd hurt me, I still wanted some kind of closure. I just didn't know how to get it. Then, out of the blue, my dad called me. At first, I didn't even recognize the number, because it had been so long since I'd heard from him. When I answered, there was this awkward silence on the other end, like he didn't know what to say. Finally, he cleared his throat and said, "We need to talk." Now, if this had been a few years ago, I would have jumped at the chance to have this conversation. I would have been ready to lay everything out and demand an apology. But now? I didn't know if I even wanted to hear what he had to say. Still, Curiosity got the best of me, so I agreed to meet him for coffee. When we met up, it was like seeing a stranger. My dad looked older, more tired than I remembered, and there was this awkward tension between us that made the whole situation even weirder. We made small talk for a bit, nothing important, just catching up. Then, finally, he got to the point. He told me that Leah had confessed to him. She had told him everything, about the lies, the jealousy, all of it. And just like that, all the anger I'd been holding on to came rushing back. He said he was sorry. He said he couldn't believe he had been so blind, that he regretted everything, and that he wished he had listened to me. But here's the thing. I didn't feel any better hearing it. An apology wasn't going to fix what he'd done. It wasn't going to make up for the fact that he had abandoned me when I needed him the most. And as much as he wanted to make things right, I knew it was too late for that. I told him I appreciated the apology, but I wasn't sure I could ever forgive him. And you know what? He didn't even fight me on it. He just nodded, like he knew he had lost me, and we sat there in silence for a while. When we finally said goodbye, it felt final, like we both knew this was the last time we'd speak. And that was it. No big confrontation, no dramatic reunion, just a quiet goodbye. So fast forward a couple of years, and things are finally going well for me. I've moved on from all the family drama, or at least I thought I had. I'm engaged to Kyle, and we're planning our wedding. Everything should be perfect, right? Well, of course, it's never that easy when it comes to family. I made the decision pretty early on that I wasn't going to invite Leah to the wedding. I mean, after everything she put me through, why would I? I didn't want that kind of negativity around me on such an important day. Kyle agreed, and it felt like a weight off my shoulders to know I didn't have to deal with Leah's manipulative crap anymore. So we're sending out invites, making plans, everything's going smoothly. I even decided to invite my dad and stepmom because, despite all the pain from the past, part of me wanted them there. They had apologized, and I guess a small part of me was still holding on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, we could be a family again. But of course, nothing with my family ever goes according to plan. It started with a phone call from my dad. I remember looking at the screen, seeing his name pop up, and feeling a weird mix of excitement and dread. I thought maybe he was calling to talk about the wedding. Maybe he wanted to help or something. I don't know. I guess I was still holding out hope that we could have a normal relationship. Boy, was I wrong. "Hey," he said, his voice sounding weirdly stiff, like he was trying too hard to keep things casual. "We need to talk about the wedding." I immediately got this sinking feeling in my stomach. I could tell something was off, but I tried to play it cool. "Yeah, what's up?" There was this long pause on the other end of the line, and I could hear him take a deep breath. That's when I knew whatever was coming next wasn't going to be good. "Leah's been asking why she didn't get an invite," he said. I literally felt my whole body tense up. Of course this was about Leah. It was always about Leah. "She's not invited," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not having her at my wedding, Dad." That's when he hit me with it. If Leah's not invited, I can't come either. I just sat there for a second, stunned. I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. My dad was giving me an ultimatum: invite the sister who destroyed my life, or he wouldn't be there. I couldn't even find words at first. I mean, how was that fair? I get that he didn't want to choose between his kids, but Leah wasn't just any sibling who I had a little falling out with. She literally ruined my entire relationship with my family, and he expected me to forgive her and have her at my wedding? No way. "Are you serious right now?" I finally managed to say. I could feel my voice shaking, and not from sadness, just pure anger. "You have to understand," he said, sounding way too calm for someone who just dropped a huge demand on his daughter. "Leah's really sorry. She's been trying to make things right." That's when I lost it. "Trying to make things right? Are you kidding me?" "She ruined my life, Dad. She lied about me being a prostitute and a drug addict, and you believed her, and now you're saying I have to invite her to my wedding like none of that ever happened?" He tried to calm me down, saying something about how families should stick together and how Leah had changed, but I wasn't hearing any of it. I was so angry I could barely see straight. It wasn't just about Leah at this point, it was about my dad once again choosing her over me. It was like no matter what she did, she was still the golden child, and I was the one who had to make all the compromises. I finally told him, "If you can't come to my wedding without her, then don't bother coming at all." I hung up the phone before he could say anything else. I was shaking, trying to hold back tears because honestly, as mad as I was, it still hurt. I had really thought that after all this time, we could have a decent relationship. But here we were again, me on the outside and Leah getting all the consideration. It felt like nothing had changed. When I told Kyle what happened, he was furious. He said he couldn't believe my dad would put me in that position and that I didn't owe Leah anything. "You deserve better than this," he kept saying. And honestly, he was right. I did deserve better. I didn't deserve to have my own wedding turned into some kind of family drama because my dad couldn't handle the idea of choosing sides. Over the next few days, I got a bunch of messages from my stepmom, all saying the same thing: "Please reconsider. Leah's family, she's sorry, blah, blah, blah." I ignored every single one. I wasn't backing down, this was my wedding, and I wasn't about to let Leah ruin it, just like she ruined everything else. But then, a couple of weeks later, my dad showed up at my apartment. I wasn't expecting him, and when I opened the door, I almost slammed it right back in his face. But he looked so tired, like he hadn't slept in days, and part of me wanted to hear what he had to say. "I'm not here to fight," he said as soon as I opened the door. "I just want to talk." I let him in, and we sat down for a minute. Neither of us said anything. The silence was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Finally, he spoke. "I know I've made mistakes," he said, looking down at his hands like he couldn't even face me. "But I'm trying to make things right. I don't want to lose you." I didn't say anything. I was too angry to trust myself to speak. "I know Leah hurt you," he went on. "I know that, and I'm not asking you to forgive her. But she's still my daughter. I can't just cut her out." I felt like screaming. Why was it always about Leah? Why couldn't he see that I was the one who had been hurt, that I was the one who deserved his support? "I'm not asking you to cut her out, Dad," I finally said. "I'm just asking you to choose me for once. I've spent my whole life being second to her, and if you can't show up for me on the most important day of my life without dragging her along, then maybe you don't deserve to be there." He didn't say anything after that. He just nodded, got up, and left. And that was it. He didn't come to my wedding, neither did my stepmom. Leah, of course, wasn't invited. And honestly, it hurt. It hurt a lot. But at the same time, it felt like the first time in my life I had truly stood up for myself. The wedding day came and went, and let me tell you, it was the best day of my life. Even without my dad and stepmom there, I didn't think I'd feel that way, honestly. I thought not having them would put a dark cloud over the whole thing. But when I walked down the aisle with Kyle's brother, surrounded by people who actually cared about me, I realized something. I didn't need them. I'd spent so long trying to get my dad to choose me, to see my worth. But in that moment, I knew I was better off without his conditional love. Kyle looked amazing, and when I saw him standing at the altar, any stress or anger I had melted away. I wasn't thinking about Leah or my dad or any of the drama that had consumed me for so long. I was just thinking about my future and how I was finally free from all the baggage that came with my family. After the wedding, things were quiet for a while. I didn't hear from my dad, and honestly, I didn't expect to. He made his choice when he decided that Leah's feelings were more important than mine, and I wasn't about to chase after him. I had Kyle, his family, and our friends. They were more of a family to me than my own ever was. But of course, nothing ever stays quiet for long when it comes to my family. About a month after the wedding, I got a message from my stepmom. It was this long, rambling text about how they missed me and wanted to work things out. She went on about how Leah was sorry and how I should just let it go for the sake of the family. I almost laughed when I read it. After everything that had happened, they still didn't get it. They still thought this was something that could just be swept under the rug, like years of lies and manipulation were no big deal, like I should just forgive Leah because she said she was sorry. But here's the thing. She never even said sorry to me. She never once reached out, never apologized, never even acknowledged the pain she caused, and they still expected me to just move on. I ignored the message at first. I didn't want to deal with it. I thought maybe if I just didn't respond, they'd get the hint and leave me alone. But a week later, I got another one, this time from my dad. It was short and to the point. "We miss you. Let's talk." Part of me wanted to scream. Why was I always the one who had to fix things? Why was it on me to reach out and make peace when they were the ones who hurt me? I had given them chance after chance, and every time they had let me down. I was done being the one to make things right. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to go back to pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. So I decided to cut them off completely. I blocked their numbers, deleted them from social media, and told myself that this was it. No more reaching out, no more second chances. It was hard at first, because deep down, I still wanted to believe that maybe, somehow, they would change. Maybe my dad would finally see that I deserved better. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it wasn't going to happen. He was never going to choose me. He had made that clear when he gave me that ultimatum about Leah. Kyle was incredibly supportive through all of this. He told me over and over again that I was making the right decision, that I didn't owe them anything, and that I deserved to be happy without their toxic influence in my life. And he was right. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my own happiness. I wasn't waiting for my dad's approval or Leah's fake apology. I was living for me, and it felt freeing. But of course, it didn't stop there. My dad found out I had blocked him, and that's when the emails started. Long, emotional emails about how I was tearing the family apart and how my refusal to forgive Leah was breaking his heart. He went on about how family is supposed to stick together no matter what, and how I was being unfair to Leah by not giving her a chance to make things right. I almost didn't respond. I wanted to just delete the email and be done with it. But something in me snapped. I was tired of being the villain in their story, tired of being the one who was expected to forgive and forget while they got to move on like nothing happened. So I wrote back. I told my dad everything I had been holding in for years. I told him how hurt I was that he never believed me, how abandoned I felt when he chose Leah's lies over me, how he let me suffer for something I didn't do. I told him that Leah had ruined my life and that no amount of sorry was going to fix that. I told him that I didn't want to be a part of their family anymore because clearly I never really was. They had chosen Leah, and that was fine, but I wasn't going to keep pretending that I could just get over it and move on. It felt good to get it all out, even though I knew it wouldn't change anything. My dad didn't respond to the email, and honestly, I didn't expect him to. He had made his choice a long time ago, and I had finally made mine. Cutting them off was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was also one of the best decisions I've ever made. For the first time in my life, I wasn't living in the shadow of Leah's lies. I wasn't chasing after my dad's approval or trying to fix a family that was never really there for me. I was free. Kyle and I are doing great now. We're starting to think about the future, maybe even having kids one day, and I know that whatever happens, I won't let the past define me. I have a family now, a real one, with people who actually love and support me, and that's more than enough. So yeah, cutting them off wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Sometimes you have to let go of the people who hurt you, even if they're family, because at the end of the day, your peace is more important than their expectations, and honestly, I've never been happier. About a year after cutting off my family, I thought I was done with them. I really did. Life was good, great even. I had Kyle, we were talking about getting a place together, and for once I wasn't waking up every day stressed out about family drama. It was like I'd finally hit this point where I could just be happy. But then, out of nowhere, I got hit with some news I never saw coming. One day I was scrolling through social media, just minding my business, when I got a message from an old mutual friend of Leah's. We hadn't talked in forever, so I wasn't sure why they were reaching out. At first I thought maybe they were just checking in or something, but nope. The message was simple and straight to the point. Hey, did you hear about Leah? Now let me tell you, that's not the kind of message you ignore, no matter how much you want to stay out of family business. So even though every part of me was screaming, "Don't get involved," I replied, "No, what happened?" The next message hit me like a brick. She's in rehab, she got hooked on drugs and tried to kill herself. I remember just staring at my phone, trying to process what I had just read. Leah, rehab, suicide attempt. It didn't make sense. Leah had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, the one who everyone believed. She was the one who ruined my life with her lies, and now this. Apparently, after I cut ties with my family, things had started to fall apart for Leah. She got in with the wrong crowd, started experimenting with drugs, and it escalated fast. From what I was told, it wasn't just some light partying. It was hardcore, pills, heroin, whatever she could get her hands on. It got so bad that she hit rock bottom and tried to take her own life. Her parents, my dad and stepmom, had found her just in time. They rushed her to the hospital, and after she recovered physically, they checked her into a rehab facility. They were keeping it hush-hush, trying to protect her reputation, but word got out. Small towns, gossip travels fast. I sat there, reading through the messages, feeling this weird mix of emotions. On one hand, I felt bad. I wouldn't wish something like that on anyone. I didn't want Leah dead, and hearing that she tried to end her life was, well, it was hard to wrap my head around. But on the other hand, a part of me couldn't help but think, karma. It sounds harsh, I know, but after everything Leah put me through, after she tore apart my relationship with my family and lied about me for years, it was hard not to feel like this was some kind of cosmic payback. I mean, she had turned my life upside down, and now her perfect little world had crumbled. It was almost like the universe was balancing things out. I didn't reach out to my family after hearing the news. I wasn't about to step back into that mess, no matter how bad things had gotten for Leah. They made their choice when they believed her lies and treated me like trash. I had no intention of opening that door again just because things had gone south for them. A few days later, I got another message from the same mutual friend. They told me that my dad and stepmom were struggling with Leah's rehab and wanted to reach out to me. They thought maybe I could help somehow, that I could be there for the family during this tough time. I couldn't believe the nerve. After everything they did, choosing Leah over me, believing her lies, cutting me out, they wanted me to come back and play happy family because Leah had hit rock bottom? No way. I sat there for a long time, staring at the message, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell them exactly where they could shove their request for help, but another part of me just didn't care anymore. I didn't need their validation. I didn't need to yell or get angry. I had moved on, and I wasn't going to let them pull me back into their chaos. So I didn't respond. I blocked the mutual friend and kept living my life.